Today we're in the saddle talking about bikes, so hold on to your handlebars and get peddling as we ride together through the very specific vocabulary of bikes and biking on this episode of
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together with over 45 years of English teaching between us, Reza and I are going to help you improve your English and take it up to the next level, up the hill, as we ride our bicycles to the next level of English. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm not too bad, Craig. I'm all right for now. But at the end of the podcast, just like at the end of a cycle trip, I might be out of breath.
Yep. You might be panting as we get to the end of this podcast. Let's see. Before we speak about biking and riding and cycling and all that fun stuff, we have a voice message from Anjeta from India. So let's go over to India to listen to Anjeta's message.
My name is Anjeta. I am 11. I live in New Delhi, India, with my father, mother, 2 brothers, and 3 sisters. My grandparents also live with us. In India, family is very important. It's common to have grandparents, aunts, uncle, and our cousin live in the same house. My aunts, uncles, and cousin also live near me. We see each other often. My older brother is a computer programmer. Right now, he is in Australia. His company sent him there for 1 year. We all miss him a lot. We write him letter every week. I want him to come home soon.
Well, thank you, Anjeta. It's lovely to get a message from you and to get a message all the way from India. I think that's the first message we've received from there.
Namaste, Anjeta. Yes, it
Namaste.
is. Thank you very much. Wow, we've got listeners in India, Craig. I didn't expect that to happen.
Yep. So Anjeta lives near Delhi. She told us all about her wonderful family. So thank you very much. And didn't she have very nice pronunciation? Lovely pronunciation.
Really good pronunciation. Except, Craig, one word. But
which word?
One little word.
Which word?
The pronunciation of live. I think, if I recall, Anjeta, you said you or your parents live instead of live.
Yeah.
It's tricky because that word L-I-V-E can be pronounced live or it can be pronounced live.
Depending on if it's an adjective or a verb.
Like live music, that's live. But you live in India. But apart from that, sorry for being so fussy, so particular. Apart from that, your pronunciation was excellent.
Yeah, and it was lovely to hear from you. Thank you for sending in your message. It must be really difficult also to have a brother who lives so far away in Australia. So please do send your brother our regards, and I hope he comes back to India to visit you soon. Now, today's subject of bikes was suggested by our friend Fernando from Madrid. So let's listen to Fernando's voice message.
Hello, Reza. Hello, Craig. This is Fernando from Madrid. I'm glad to listen to your podcasts, and I'd like to give you a subject for next episode. The world of bike. Parts of bike, while we're riding on bike lines in cities, or so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fernando. Any comments on that, Reza?
That was a good message, Fernando. Just one thing. I think you said the world of bike, singular. But usually in that collocation, the world of something, we use, if it's countable, we use plural. So the world of books, the world of bikes, the world of cars. If it's countable, usually it's plural. Another thing would be if it was something uncountable. For example, I love the world of music. Well, music's uncountable, so there's no S. But bike is countable, so the world of bikes.
So when we say the word bikes, we could be speaking about a bicycle. Now, be careful of the spelling of bicycle. I often see it misspelled. from my students. It's bicycle. So be careful where you put the Y in that word. It's in the middle. Bicycle. Or a bike could be a motorbike, a motorcycle. So a little bit confusing. What's the name of a person, Reza, who rides a motorbike?
A motorcyclist is the rider of a motorcycle or a motorbike. So, Craig, what's the name of a person who rides a bicycle?
A cyclist. Cyclist. A cyclist is a person who rides a bike.
Then, Craig, we've got another word, but what does it mean exactly? What is a biker?
When I think of a biker, I definitely think of someone riding a motorbike.
Me too.
Probably quite a heavy bike, a big bike, a powerful bike, maybe more than 500cc, or maybe even a Harley Davidson or a touring bike.
So then, Craig, what's the difference between a biker and just an ordinary motorcyclist?
A biker to me means a person not only rides a bike, but they're also really interested in the culture of bike riding, in the freedom of the open road. So they usually dress with the leathers, and they're very conscious perhaps of what kind of bike they're riding. It's really important to them that they have a good bike. That would be a description of a biker. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for me, that's what it means too.
Maybe even like a certain kind of music,
Yes,
perhaps?
a lot of music is, and kind of fashion and a kind of lifestyle as well. The kind of lifestyle of being free and easy and traveling around a lot, traveling around with your friends on their motorbikes, and you have beers in a bar where lots of bikers go. That seems to be the typical thing that bikers do.
There's actually a biker bar near my parents where my parents live in Moreira. There's a bar where bikers like to go, and you usually see a lot of big bikes, Harley Davidsons and American bikes outside, and they get together and talk about bikes and swap stories and drink beer together.
Now, the sort of thing that a serious biker wouldn't buy is a moped. What's a moped? That's M-O-P-E-D. What's a moped, Craig?
That's a less powerful motorbike, maybe just 50cc or less, or 75cc. So it's a smaller, less powerful motorbike, sometimes called a scooter.
You said cc. What do you mean by that?
cc is cubic centimeters. Cubic capacity. So it's a way to measure the size of the engine, the size of the cylinders in the engine. So 50cc, cubic centimeters. So Reza, how would you describe a scooter, which is a kind of a moped, isn't it?
Could be, but not necessarily. I would give two definitions of a scooter. The first one is very similar to a moped. It's a type of motorbike, but with a footboard, a board for your feet. So the rider's feet rest on a footboard. So on a motorbike, for example, on a big motorbike like a biker would have, he's not going to have a footboard. No. His feet are going to rest on the footrests, which are on both sides, one on the left, one on the right of the motorbike. But in a scooter, you don't have that. In the scooter, you have one big floorboard in the middle where you put both of your feet together, not separate. That's what a scooter can be.
So examples of scooters would be Lambrettas or Vespas, those 60s, 70s classic mod machines that are very famous from the 60s and 70s.
Exactly. But a scooter also can be a vehicle with no engine, no motor. So it's basically a bicycle, or it looks like a bicycle a bit, but it's a footboard mounted on two wheels. But instead of a place where you can sit down, you have to stand up on the footboard, and to move, you put your foot on the ground and you push like what you do with a skateboard.
Yeah,
So
I used to
that's
have one of
scooter.
those when I was a kid. I had a scooter. Did you?
I did. They're very common for kids in the UK and Spain as well, I guess. But they've come into fashion for adults. Have you noticed?
With motors.
With motors and without, I've noticed both types.
And remote controls. So you can direct, or you can steer. To steer means to change direction using the remote control.
I've seen a lot of electric ones recently for adults and for kids. But I've also seen some of the old-fashioned ones, adults going around just using the power of their feet. I've seen that as well recently.
So let's look at some specific bicycle and bike vocabulary. So obviously the activity is cycling, and when you have an activity that finishes in ing, you use the verb to go. So for example, go riding, go cycling, go walking, go jogging. So to go cycling is to ride a bike. So use the verb to ride. You can also ride an animal. You could ride a horse or ride a camel, but ride a bike is to go cycling.
Now, you're not going to always go straight on the bike. You have to go round corners or round bends, curvas, bends. So to do that, you're going to have to steer. That means to direct, to change the direction of your bike. To do that, you'll need the handlebars. Handlebars. Bars, varas, with handles, con mangas. In other words, where you put your hands on a bike. You need the handlebars to steer. Unlike a car where you have a steering wheel, on a bicycle or motorbike, you have handlebars.
And there are different types of bike. If you go off-road, which means you go on tracks in the countryside and maybe up mountains, then you probably have a mountain bike. But if you stay on the road, on the tarmac, and you want to go fast, you need a road bike. And with road bikes, you tend to sit quite low so that the wind goes past you and doesn't slow you down. If there are two people on a bicycle, it's called a tandem, Tandem. And the bicycle I used to have before it got stolen was a mixture of a road bike and a mountain bike. So it was a hybrid bike. And of course, you could have bikes that fold up, which means they break in the middle and you can make them smaller, and they're called folding bikes. So to fold is doblar, a folding bike.
Folding bikes are very useful if you want to take a train or the underground or something, as well as ride your bike. You can bring the folding bike easily onto public transport.
Or if, like me, you don't have a very big flat, so you don't have room to keep a full-size bike, then a folding bike can be put in a cupboard.
So Craig's mentioned several types of bicycles, but of course all bicycles have certain things in common. We mentioned the handlebars, you need them to steer. Also, you'll need a saddle, S-A-D-D-L-E, el sillín. So we don't call it a seat if it's for a bike, we call it a saddle. You're also going to need pedals, P-E-D-D-L-E-S, los pedales that go round and round, obviously. And you may or may not have mud guards. It's a good idea to have them. They protect you against the mud. The mud is the dirty soil, el barro, that could get over your trousers or your legs. So mud guards stop that from happening.
Guardabarros, I think in Spanish. Now, we're very lucky in Valencia because Valencia is very flat. We don't have hills or mountains in the city. But if you do live in an area or you're riding in an area that has hills and you need to go up and go down the hills, you need gears. Marcha. So when you go up a hill, then you want an easier gear, and you change gears for going up a hill and change gears when you go down a hill because you want to go faster. So to change gears, or you could say to shift gears. Also in a car, you shift gears on a bicycle and in a car. Around the gears, you have a chain, una cadena. So the chain, when you pedal, you push the chain around the gears and that drives the bicycle. That moves the bicycle.
So when you pedal, the chain goes round and that in turn makes the wheels, las ruedas, the wheels go round. Be careful with the spelling of wheel, W-H-E-E-L. So usually you've got a front wheel and a back wheel. Although I guess you might have a tricycle, which has two back wheels, but usually most people ride a bicycle, with two wheels. So that's rueda. Part of the wheel will be the tires. That's the tires. So the tires are the rubber bit of the wheel, la parte de la goma. And you're going to have to pump up the tires. To pump means to put air into something.
So you pump up the tires to a particular pressure, and the pressure is measured in PSI, which is pounds per square inch. So I don't know how much pressure you put in a road bike, but it's a good idea to have the same amount of pressure in both tires, the front tire and the back tire. When you pump up your tires, you need to connect the pump to the valve, VALVE, and the valve is the part of the tire where the air goes in and comes out of. So the air enters and leaves the tire at the valve.
Craig, you said to connect the pump to the tires. So what is a pump, the noun?
A pump is the thing that puts air into the tires. So it could be the pump at the petrol station, or it could be a hand pump that you manually push in to put air into the tires.
So we've got it as a noun and a verb in English. A pump, to pump.
And the phrasal verb to pump up.
You'll also have on your wheels spokes. That's spokes. They're the crisscross. That means they cross each other. There are many of them and they cross each other. They're the crisscross bits of metal, usually metal, that keep the wheel in shape. The bits in the middle connecting the two sides of the circumference. They're the spokes. And I can't remember what they're called in Spanish.
Me neither, but I can remember when I was young and I had my first bicycle, I used to put playing cards, cartas, on the spokes with a peg, una pinza, and then you pushed it against the spokes, and when the wheel went round, it made a noise like a scooter or a motorbike. And it sounded like, oh, I've got a motorbike. My bicycle was making a noise. Did you do that?
Yeah, I did exactly the same, yeah.
If you're unlucky, you're riding along and there's something sharp in the road or on the pavement, maybe some broken glass, you could get a puncture, pinchazo. So if you have a puncture in your tire, if you get a puncture, you need to fix it. You need to fix the puncture with a puncture kit and then blow up the tire again.
Yeah, you'll need a puncture repair kit. Another important part of the bike is the frame. The frame is like the main usually metallic bit in the middle. So if you took off the wheels and the handlebars, you would be left with the frame.
El marco.
El marco, is it? Okay.
I think so.
The frame. Also, as part of the frame, you probably, but not necessarily, will have a crossbar. It's the bar that goes across at the top of the frame. Now, traditionally, women's bikes didn't have a crossbar, but now they often do. Do you remember years ago? Mm-hmm. If it didn't have a crossbar, it was a woman's bike.
Because of the skirts.
Yes, exactly. They didn't want to reveal any more than they should. You'll also find forks on a bike, not for eating, not a knife and fork, but the forks are the bits which stick out at the front or back from the frame where you attach the wheels.
And obviously, at some point as you're cycling, you need to stop. How do you stop? Well, the same as in a car. You need brakes. So you pull the brake lever, brakes are frenos, and the lever is the small handle that you pull on the handlebars, and that pulls the brake cable, which stops you. So you pull the brakes to stop your bike.
Craig, maybe I've just never learned properly, but I've never really been a fan of front brakes. For me, I always like to pull the back brake.
Me too.
Because by pulling the front brake, you can go over the front of the bike, over the handlebars, and have an accident.
I think I've probably done that when I was younger.
But me too, a couple of times.
Especially when you put new brakes on the bike and they're very sharp. If the brakes are sharp, you stop quickly.
But apparently I've read, though I don't do it, that professional cyclists hit the back brake first and then the front brake. Apparently that's the way to do it.
That's correct.
I never remember which one's which. So I just learn what's the back brake and completely ignore the front. That's the way I do it.
And also on the back brake, if you're going fast and you hit the brakes, which means pull the brakes very quickly, you can skid. And to skid is where the wheel locks and it doesn't move and the rubber slides across the tarmac. and it makes a great noise and leaves some of your tire on the road. That's fun.
So obviously you should try not to pull the brakes too violently. If you can do it smoothly, there's less chance of you having an accident. Just like in a car, when your foot goes on the brake, you try not to do it abruptly.
If you're riding your bike at night, it's very important to be seen by other road users. So please do use a reflector. A reflector reflects the headlights and the street lights of other cars, and it makes your bike visible. You can also have reflectors on your clothes, on your jackets, and of course on your bike, especially at the back.
You can have them on the front, the back, or if you don't want to put in the playing cards like Craig to sound like a motorbike, you can even put reflectors in the spokes, so they're actually in the wheels as well.
So people can see you from the side as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or just wear a high-vis jacket. Vis is short for visibility. So if you wear a luminous or high-vis jacket or vest or clothing, then other road users can see you.
In fact, technically, by law, you have to wear a high-vis jacket or vest in Spain and in the UK and in most countries when it's dark to be seen. Although I notice some people don't, but by law, they should.
Is it necessary by law in Spain to wear a helmet to protect your head?
I don't know. I don't know about that. But I know that most people don't bother. They don't make the effort.
I don't like them.
It's too hot in a place like Valencia.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You just sweat all the time. Your head gets very hot. But I think people wear helmets, cascos, more in the UK because you don't get too hot. In fact, the helmet can be good so your head doesn't get too cold in the UK. Right?
Next word we have is chopper, CHOPPER, which is a special kind of motorbike with very long forks at the front, very high handlebars, and you sit upright or maybe slightly back in the saddle, and it's quite a comfortable way of riding a motorbike.
We were talking earlier, Craig, about what is a biker. For me, the classic look of a biker, the classic original bikers, is on a chopper.
Yeah.
Those original 1960s or early 1970s Californian bikers. They went around on choppers. In fact, it reminds me of a film which I like very much, Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
Yeah, where they go around on the choppers. That's like the classic 1960s bikers film, isn't it?
Riding along Route 66.
Yeah. I particularly love that near the start of that film, there's a song, and Craig was talking about music and culture and everything identified with bikers. That classic song, Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf, isn't it?
Yeah.
Born to be wild.
Who was that? Jack Nicholson in that film?
Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah. Very young Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. For me, that's classic. And I love the way the music kicks in that film and the choppers. It's classic.
It's a lifestyle, isn't it? Riding choppers and hitting the open road and being free with the wind in your hair.
In that film, Craig, did anybody pull a wheelie? Did anybody do a wheelie?
I can't remember. What does do a wheelie mean?
Well, to do a wheelie or pull a wheelie is when you move along on a motorbike or a bicycle only on the back wheel. So you lift up the front wheel by leaning back, inclinarse, to lean back, inclinarse hacia atrás, and you're doing a wheelie. I think in that film there's a couple of times when they do wheelies.
I don't think it's easy to do on a chopper.
No, but it can be done if you know what you're doing. You've got to be careful. It's easy to go too far back and have an accident, but it can be done.
One thing I loved to do when I was cycling, when I had my own hybrid bike, was to freewheel down a mountain, which is to move without pedaling. So you pedal to the top, you do all the hard work, and then you go down the other side of the mountain with the wind in your face going really, really fast and going too fast to pedal. So that's to freewheel down the mountain.
I'm so lazy that I even sometimes freewheel on the flat ground. Flats when there is no hill or mountain. I just pedal a bit and think, I don't need to pedal for about another 30 meters and the bike will get to where I'm going. So I just stop pedaling just because I'm lazy, even on flat ground.
When you're cycling around Valencia, do you use the cycle lanes? And do you think there are enough in this city?
That's a good question. It's a very controversial, that means people argue about it, very controversial question. There was a lot of opposition to bike lanes from some people when they were first introduced. Do you remember? Some people said, oh no, it's going to disrupt the traffic, it's going to be chaos. But now there are a lot and people seem to be quite happy with them. Do you think there are enough?
I don't think there can ever be enough. I think there should be bike lanes everywhere. But I have noticed in the last few years, they've really been increasing the amount of bike lanes in Valencia. And in your area, where there's streets are very narrow, there are terrible problems parking. They've put more bike lanes in at the expense of making the streets even more narrow.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good idea?
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. Although for me, it's very important to leave enough space for pedestrians. I'm not so worried about motorists. That's people who drive cars or motorbikes, people who ride motorbikes, motorists. That's a false friend in Spanish, by the way. Motorist for a car driver or a motorbike rider. I don't really care about their space so much. Sorry, it sounds bad when we're talking about motorbikes. But I do care about space for pedestrians. And I don't like the idea of bicycle lanes eating up a lot of pedestrian space.
Do you cycle around Valencia often?
Not as often as I should. I notice with every passing year less. Maybe I'm getting lazier or just older. But yeah, certainly every week I use a bike. Perhaps not every day.
And you use the city bikes, yeah? You've got a card and you take out city bikes. Me too. Yeah, I use that quite a lot.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Because we are lucky. We do live in a very flat city and there are quite a few city bikes and now more cycle lanes. So it seems a shame not to take advantage of it.
Craig, what about motorbikes? A lot of people consider them a death trap. Could die easily on one. Do you agree? I mean, the rate of accidents for motorbikes is much higher than cars. Are they death traps?
They can be. The problem with motorbikes is that then there's no protection. So if you do have an accident in a car, at least you've got this metal around you, or these days plastic probably. But with a motorbike, you're completely exposed. You're completely open. So if you fall, if another car hits you, then you're very susceptible, which means you're exposed and open to injury, personal injury. So yeah, of course, they're dangerous. And also they're sometimes difficult to see. It's difficult to see a motorbike in traffic.
Craig, do you think cyclists, as people on bicycles, should be allowed to mount the pavement? To mount means you leave the road and you go up onto the pavement where the pedestrians normally are. Should they be allowed to do that?
They shouldn't be allowed to do that, no. And I must admit that sometimes I'm guilty of that, especially where there are no cycle lanes and there's no... I mean, yeah, I could get off the bike and walk, and I probably should. But sometimes I admit if there are not a lot of people or if there's nobody on the pavement, I do use the pavement sometimes. I shouldn't really do that.
Craig, no one would argue that bicycles aren't environmentally friendly. They definitely are. But what about motorbikes? Are they environmentally friendly?
I'd say they're probably more environmentally friendly than cars. They don't use as much petrol. They don't take up or occupy. They don't take up as much space on the road as cars do. And I notice in cities that have heavy traffic, like Bangkok and Hanoi in Vietnam and other places, mainly in Asia, that everybody has a motorbike just because there isn't enough space on the road and because they're cheaper. They're cheaper to run, they're cheaper to buy. So I think they're probably more environmentally friendly than cars. Do you agree?
In a way, yes, and in a way, no. Yes, because they use less fuel. But you could argue, well, why should any fuel be used just for one or possibly two people on a motorbike so that one or two people can move around? In a car, you can fit 5 people. Then again...
But do you, though?
But that's the thing.
Unless you know them.
That's the thing. Very often you see cars with only one person. So if we obliged car owners to fill up the car with 5 people...
Yes.
Then I would say that would make motorbikes look more environmentally harmful. But the fact that car owners often do travel alone, well, in that case, yes, motorbikes probably are more environmentally friendly.
But not as environmentally friendly as public transport, which gets more people in the same vehicle at the same time.
You mentioned Bangkok earlier. Of course, in Asia in general, there are a lot of motorbikes. I bet Angeta there in India sees several thousand motorbikes every day. Very, very common form of transport there. And also, I said, 2 people on a motorbike. I bet she's used to seeing 3, 4, and 5, which you see sometimes in India on one motorbike.
Yeah, that's really funny and a bit scary. You see whole families riding on a bike, the parents, the kids, the baby in the mother's arms. It's amazing how many people, and furniture that I've seen on motorbikes.
And maybe someone could be dad, for example, is riding at the front, mum's hanging on to him, but she's also feeding a baby. And then there's another child who's reading a book, kind of all on one motorbike. It's amazing. Craig, what comes to mind when you think of the famous Hells Angels?
Do you mean the original Hells Angels in America or groups of Harley Davidson and fans that you see in Spain sometimes?
Oh, well, tell me about both. Tell me about both.
When I think of the original Hells Angels, I think of freedom, the open road, drinking beer, maybe some crime, living on the edge, which means living a little outside of society, perhaps. Maybe violence sometimes as well. Definitely think of Harley Davidson. I definitely think of leather jackets and tattoos. What about you?
Big guys, big men with tattoos, big beards and bald heads. It's a classic, isn't it? Yeah.
And beer bellies.
Beer bellies, yeah. Yeah. They're not going to go into a bar and ask for a rosé wine, are they? No. They want a cold beer, and they're probably going to smoke themselves a Marlboro cigarette while they're at it. Why not?
Or a couple of joints. Yeah. Although the fans of Harley Davidson bikes and biking in Spain seem to have a kind of a different image. I mean, they just seem to be middle-aged or maybe in their 50s or 40s. They have disposable income, which means they have some extra money. Maybe their children have grown up and they've always wanted a motorbike, and they join a club, a biking club, and they meet together and talk about bikes and have a couple of beers. There's a very different image that I've seen in Spain of biker groups than my stereotype of American bikers, for example.
Yes, and sorry to be the party pooper, agua fiestas, but I've seen quite a lot of news stories in the last 5 or 10 years of Hells Angels being used as a cover for gangs trafficking drugs.
Yep.
I'm not talking about what Craig said, having a joint, un porrito or two. I'm talking about people doing international drug dealing. Unfortunately, Hells Angels seem to have got quite closely associated with international drug trafficking lately. Not in the original guys in the 60s, but these days, I'm afraid it seems quite common.
And guns for hire as well.
Yeah.
If needed an assassination or somebody to break somebody else's legs, then that's the association they're getting at least in the media. One more question for you, Reza, because I think some divided opinion on this. When you see a group of Spanish cyclists on the road riding road bikes, this is quite common. They usually belong to a club. They all have the same cycling clothes on, and they're blocking traffic. Do you see it in a negative way or a positive way? Do you think, as I do, that it's really nice that they're out enjoying the fresh air in the countryside, riding along in a group with their friends and getting exercise? Or, some people might say, should they be in a group blocking traffic, slowing down the flow of traffic? Why are they on the road disturbing everybody?
Well, I think they have to apply common sense. I think it's okay for a group of cyclists to occupy a wide space, a wide area on the road, if it's easy for cars to overtake, to go past them, to go onto the other side and go past them. However, if they know that they're causing a big build-up of traffic, a traffic jam behind them, then I think they should pull over. That means go to one side and let the traffic go past before they continue. I think both sides should be flexible, I think.
No, I agree, but it's awkward sometimes because some big groups and some big clubs have service vehicles, which are cars or vans, furgonetas that go behind the group in case there are punctures or someone falls off the bike or there's some emergency. Then they have this vehicle, which is also going really, really slowly at the back or at the front of the group. But it makes me happy to see them doing exercise and getting out with their friends. So what's your opinion? Are you a keen cyclist? Do you have any opinions on any of the comments we've made in this podcast? We would love to hear from you with a comment or even a question about anything connected to English for a future podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, why not send us a voice message and practice your speaking? Go to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, or send us an email to reza@belfastreza@gmail.com,
or to Craig, that's Craig@inglespodcast.com. We'd also like to thank our Patreon sponsors, starting off with Bruno, who's our gold sponsor. Bruno is the man who organizes walking tours of Copenhagen, and you can check out his company on copenhagenwalkingtour.com, where you can find out all the information about tours in that city in Denmark. Or if you're more interested in South America, he also organizes walking tours of Rio de Janeiro in the favelas, which are completely safe because they're led by local guides, and some of the money helps the community to improve. You can find out about those tours on favelawalkingtour.com.br.
Yes, thanks very much, Bruno, for being a gold sponsor. And also, of course, thank you to our other wonderful Patreons who are supporting the podcast. They are Ana Giovanna, Dana Constantin, Pachi Ibañez, Manuel Tarazona, Juan Carlos Lorado, Beatriz Sánchez, Pedro Martínez, Maite Paracín Pérez, Lara Allem, Rafael Bancels, Nestor García Mañez from Luces Extrañas, his podcast at nestorgm.com, Maria Gervati, Lorena, Sara Jarabo, Carlos Garrido, Mamen, Juan Leiva Garrera, Corey Finneran and his podcast on baseball at ivyMV.com, Miren Full, José Luis Araguay, Agus Paulucci, Maria Reidamen, Manuel García Petagón, Raúl López, Rafael, José Manuel Fernández Picazo, Pilar Martínez, Gambate Blog, Igor, Garmendia, Ignacio Espona, Kieran, Carlos García, Ana Ibarra, Marina Ortez Pena, and of course our latest sponsors to join our Patreon program, Juan Carlos Pantin Fernández, Joel Silvera, Alejandro Pluma, Alex Cuadra, José Emilio Villena, Emilio Manuel Martínez Rivas, and Antonio. Thank you, all of you.
And if you'd like to join our Patreon program, you can for as little as just $1 per month. And that way you get instant access to recent transcriptions that have been lovingly transcribed by Angelica Bello from Madrid. Just go to patreon.com/English podcast.
And thank you also to the pencil of Patricia Alonso, who continues working hard transcribing episodes for you. And we now have available episodes 1 to 21 and 131 to 142 on our blog at inglespodcast.com. Reza, what's on next week's episode?
On next week's episode, onomatopeia.
What's that?
When the word sounds like what it represents.
Sounds interesting. Please join us next week for that. Until then, thank you for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.